Hi, I'm Sally Russell and thank you for tuning in to this episode of HIC Talks, Welcome to Helsingborg. This is a podcast series in English designed to demystify the city of Helsingborg for its international residents. In this episode, we talk to Mikael Ottebrant from the Volunteer Centre. We discuss why volunteering is such a valuable activity for newcomers and how to get involved locally. Hi, Mikael. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Hi, Sally. It's great to be here.
Lovely. Thank you. It's great to have you on the podcast. So we're really pleased to be talking to you about volunteering because this is such a valuable way for newcomers to engage with the local community and to get to know other people. And we can talk in a minute about the many benefits of volunteering. But first of all, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Are you from Helsingborg originally?
No, I'm from the eastern part of Sweden, from Blekinge.
Okay.
But I've lived in Skåne since 2004.
Right. Yeah.
And in Helsingborg area since 10 years or so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're well sort of versed in it now.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. And what's your role at the Volunteer Centre?
We are 4 people working with, you can say, the same tasks as we are, and we want to make it easy for people to live in Helsingborg to do voluntary work or get in touch with organizations to do informal helping or voluntary work. And we have different kinds of ways for people to get in touch with organizations or to do voluntary work.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. And have you been in that role for long?
I've been working at the municipality for about 9 years. And in this role, I've been in for 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've always been working with connecting people with jobs or voluntary work or helping them get in touch with other people. So connecting people has always been a great part of my work. So
that's very close to my heart as well, because that's what we're always trying to do with HIC as well. And I think when we first met, you were with Campus Venner, weren't you? So you're doing a lot of work with the students at Campus Helsingborg.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've been there for a couple of years and now. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Why do you think volunteering is so important?
Well, I think that the volunteering work is important in many other types of aspects. One is you can say like it's on a bigger picture due to the demographic changes in the society, where you get more people who are older and live longer and fewer people who are working and bringing the taxes to the society. So both the public and the private sector are looking towards the voluntary work through organizations that they need to help to bring the society forward. And the voluntary work is a very big, can you say, a big picture.
Yes.
In this, I don't know, it's a gap or something like that.
And also, I suppose when you talk about demographics in Sweden, Sweden isn't a country where families typically live together or different generations of families live together so much, do they? People do live on their own and perhaps they're a little bit more spread out. So perhaps there is a greater need for volunteering to help the elderly. Would you say that's the case here?
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons as well. Yeah. There is, if you compare Sweden to other countries internationally, there's a very high level of people doing voluntary work. Half of the Swedish population in general do some kind of voluntary work, and that's quite high according to other countries internationally. And it's been on a steady numbers throughout the last 20 years. So that's quite amazing, actually. So.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? And I think also, we've observed before that association life and organisation life is really flourishing in Sweden, and it's where many Swedish people make their friends. They tend to make it through common interests and things like that. So I suppose that's also a big part of volunteering.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a good way to meet new people and to raise your social capital, to learn about democratic values.
Yes. Well, and what about, do you think, for the individual, where, how does volunteering help the individual, would you say?
Well, if you look at why you do voluntary work, often it is to be part of a context, a social context, or to help other people. So that's
Yes.
one of the two biggest reasons why you do something. So, and
yeah.
there was a funny episode in Friends where Joey and Phoebe are discussing if you can do an unselfish good deed or not.
Okay. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay. Yes.
I don't know which one of them, but one of them is claiming that you can't do it, and the other one is claiming that you can. Yeah, that you can do it. That there is no such thing as a selfish good deed. Yeah, you always feels good when you do something good for another person.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. And although a lot of people hesitate to volunteer, don't they, because they think perhaps it sounds like too much of a commitment, or they don't want to give up their time or whatever. Most people will always tell you that the rewards for volunteering are always significantly more because, as you say, ultimately, actually, we all feel better when we do something for other people. And we don't always realise that to begin with, but I think that is definitely one of the big results. And it sounds like quite a philosophical question, doesn't it? Is there any such thing as an unselfish good deed? I love that. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, we also see changes in how people do voluntary work.
Okay.
You can say nowadays people are more interested in doing short, specific assignments and not sign up for longer term, like board members positions. It's more like an on-demand
that's interesting.
situation.
Yeah.
It's not we can see changes that people are doing more, they want to do more of that, but of course there's still a big part where you can do the long-term assignments and you have board members or stuff like that. But we also see changes in people's way of doing engagements.
Yeah,
that's quite interesting. So that's also in our work. We work with volunteers people who come to us to do interest in doing volunteer works, but we also work with organizations, and we're trying to connect the organizations with the people who don't want to do volunteer works. Because they are in need of people who can do, maybe just help them to carpent on or paint a fence or something. They just need some sort of help, or it could be a leader for a sport organization. But there are different kind of ways.
I suppose again it comes down to people thinking how much time they can commit or what they want to do. So the idea of perhaps a one-off or short tasks are perhaps more appealing. And I think from what we always say to people when they arrive here, and people want to know how can they get a job, how can they get to know other people, what activities can they do. And some people are more specific about the idea that, and maybe this is if they've lived abroad already, they know that volunteering is a good way to get into the local society. Not everyone considers volunteering as part of the kind of activities that they want to get into when they've arrived from another country, because maybe their focus is on studying the language or finding a job more quickly. But we always say to people who are looking for work that volunteering is such an important activity to consider, because it's through volunteering that they can meet all kinds of different people. They don't know where those connections will lead, and one thing always does lead to another. So it can just be that working or volunteering rather on some particular task also shows off your skills and perhaps your aptitudes and your personality and your character. So all of those things can be interesting, and can just getting to know people more in a different situation can lead to something else. Perhaps they have a job in a company, or perhaps they can suggest an internship, or perhaps they know someone and think, oh, you know what, you should connect with this person, and that leads to something else. So it's all about broadening social contacts as well, and using your skills. And we touched on it just now, but I think perhaps if we're some people are a little bit low after they've arrived here because they find it's difficult to find work, or they haven't settled in as quickly as they thought they had. So it's a great way to boost one's self-esteem and to really feel as if you're contributing in somehow. And I think that's essential, because a lot of people can feel a little bit miserable perhaps if they've been here a while, and things aren't going quite as well as they expected. So it's a wonderful way to be involved and feel that you can be getting something back and contributing. So I think there's all sorts of very good reasons that volunteering is particularly helpful for people who are new to the city, actually, whether they're Swedish or whether they're international. I think the same thing applies, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And I certainly have examples of people we've met through HIC who have got involved with some kind of volunteering and have actually directly got work through the connections they've made there. So I think it's invaluable, really. It might seem like a big commitment, but I think it's a great thing to do. I wondered if you could give our listeners some examples of the types of volunteering opportunities available through the centre.
Yes, of course. Now, during the last year, we had quite a lot of assignments that had to be paused because of the COVID. But we are now seeing there coming more and more assignments. And this summer we have 2 events. The festival, the HX Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also have motocross. How do you say?
Okay.
Yeah.
Motocross.
Yeah, motocross.
Yeah.
The European Championship in motocross is it's the same weekend as the festival, so it's in August. And they are looking for volunteers. It's a great way to do simple tasks of doing volunteering.
I'd missed that completely, actually. I hadn't seen that was happening. Is that at that sort of stadium near Vela or Vela Södra?
Exactly.
Or okay.
Yeah.
It's for anyone who doesn't know, it's between Net on Net and Hornbach, roughly, isn't it? That's that's the way to describe it, I think. Yeah.
2 big landmarks, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's exciting. I didn't know about that. And how's it working with HX this year? The festival I thought it was going to be more digital, but is it now going to be a bit more of a physical event?
They're planning on doing a digital, and if they're possible, they're speaking of lightening it up to do more physical events. But at the moment, there are digital events, but they also need volunteering for backstage for artists and doing all kinds of helping backstage and on stage.
Yeah. Okay.
During the productions.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also have nattvandring.
Yes.
Yeah. There are grown-ups in the nights and the evenings walking together to be an extra parent for young kids.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's voluntary, not organizational. It's individual-based volunteering.
Okay.
So different kinds of groups in the city start groups where they're walking mostly Fridays and Saturdays.
Right.
Around a specific area. We have different kind of areas in the city. Rydebäck, Mariastaden, Söder, Dalhem, Drottninghög, Fredriksdal.
Okay.
Mainly those areas. And they're just walking around and being an extra adult, talk to kids. Yeah. Just out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Role models.
That's really good. I didn't actually realize that was the focus, because I've seen these night walks, as I think it would translate. And I have a friend who does that too, but I hadn't really realized that the focus was more on sort of being another adult or another pair of eyes, maybe for kids who are out there. So what kind of questions might they get, or do they have any sort of difficult situations they have to deal with?
Well, they're just to be another adult, and by their parents, they're preventing stuff to happen, and just could also talk to youngsters to create a safer environment,
right,
for the young ones, or for everyone, and not just for the youngs, but specifically for the younger ones.
Right.
And they just talk. How are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay. And help. And they also have connections with social workers in the city if it's needed. So yeah. It's a great way to well, you're in a group of 2 or 5 people, mostly Fridays and Saturday nights, walking around in the city. Yeah.
Oh, sounds very good. Thank you. Lovely. And I know that there's all sorts of volunteering in the city, isn't there? And we've had quite a few HIC events where we've had people on talking about volunteering, and we had the volunteer centre last year too. But I think that was our last hybrid event that we had before we had to go digital. So yeah, that was it was really nice to have people from your centre talking about it. And I know the Red Cross are very active as well with their volunteering. And when you start looking, there's often all kinds of, as you mentioned, associations and things who do need volunteering too. And in fact, some of the Vision Fund projects over the last year have also given opportunities for volunteering, and we've been featuring those a little bit on HIC social media. There's an organisation called Barnes Lake Party who are putting together an adventure playground as we speak on Pixlaperen, and I think that's going to be available for kids to play in during July. So it's been good to see how that's developed over time, and interesting to see the engagement from people. And I think it's like all things, if you don't tell people what you're doing, then they don't know. And, you can't sit back and complain that you're not getting help or people don't want to get involved if you don't promote it and let people know what's happening. So it's been a pleasure to help share things like that on social media, and then sort of hear about the kind of response they've had afterwards. So yeah, good to know about. I know that some people, some international people here can feel a bit nervous about volunteering locally if they don't speak much Swedish. So what would you say to them?
Well, I would say a lot of Swedes know quite a good English, so we can speak English, but some are a bit afraid, or I don't know what to say. But of course, there are some language barriers that you need to handle somehow. But I think if you just try, I think it would work perfectly.
Yeah.
I think we just have to. I think we just have to think that you can do stuff in English as well. Why not? Why not? And in some ways, it could be a benefit as well.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose it could be a benefit that way around.
And of course, if you know other language as well, besides the English language or the Swedish language, that's also a very good benefit.
That's true. And I know, I often come across people in quite sort of random situations who are only too happy to start speaking Swedish and tell me about the visits they've had to England in the past or studying there or something like that. It's often quite a nice opportunity to chat. Lovely. And of course, I guess it's, it all works the other way around too. It's a great opportunity for people to start practicing their Swedish more and to be thrown into the deep end a little bit, because we all need a push sometimes. And I do think part of moving abroad and part of trying to make a new life is the fact that you've just got to be a bit brave sometimes, and you've got to take a deep breath, haven't you, and put yourself forward for something that you might not normally do. So I wanted to ask you about how the pandemic has affected the volunteer scene locally, because it's obviously been a tough year for many people and many areas of society. How's it been here in Helsingborg?
Yeah, well, it's been affecting the volunteering assignments as well, because a lot of our assignment is built on meeting people, helping people physically, not digitally as much. And we had a lot of big events, and the events that have been cancelled. So, and also some of the volunteers are older and in risky group.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've not been able to do volunteer work as well.
Right.
But we're hoping now that the summer and the fall, that will be a little bit more assignments, more and more opening. I think people want to do more voluntary work. They're yearning for it. Yearning to meet people.
Yeah, I think
to
that's
help other
true.
people.
Yeah.
But we've also been working a lot with the Red Cross during the pandemic to help people shop groceries or medicals.
Good.
And also bringing books home to people who can't go to the library. So the library prepares a bag of books, and you go to the library, pick up the bag, and you go home to the one who was having the book.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. I remember hearing about that, I think, at our event, and great pictures of people involved with that. It's such a nice thing to be able to do. And I must admit, part of my family had COVID last month, and we were fortunate enough to be able to call on a few good friends to help us out with a few things, getting the test and dropping them off, and a little bit of shopping and things like that. And I did stop and think for a moment, well, how would we have managed? We don't have family here, and we're fortunate to have friends. But then, of course, I remembered all the things that are going on in the city, and it is possible for people to get help if they can't get out because of COVID, either, as you say, because they're in a risk group or because they're ill themselves. So it's nice to know that there is that local support. Yeah. So how can people find out about what volunteering opportunities there are?
Well, you can go to our website, helsingborg.se. And I think you type in volontaire.
Yes.
You go directly. And we're trying to reorganize our web structure to bring more assignments to the site. And it's coming up this fall, hopefully, a new type of assignment website. You can find information there. You can contact an organization directly, or if you're not sure and you maybe want to do something else, or that's you don't find any assignments that's available for you, we would like to meet you and hear a little bit about your expectations and what you want to do. Now we're doing online video meetings, but hopefully soon we will meet physical. And you just book it online. There are a schedule where you can just book 3 times.
Oh, that's really good to know, actually. Yeah, excellent. I didn't realize they had that, actually. So I think that a lot of people would find that quite reassuring, because then they're not just sort of looking through a list and thinking, oh, it's like a volunteer here. If they know they're actually going to speak to somebody first, then they can perhaps feel a bit more comfortable. And also, if they've got any sort of anxieties or questions, they can talk through those as well. Yeah, and obviously you've got a better sense of what that person would be suited to as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely. Yeah, no, I think that's really good service. And I suppose if someone is also looking for volunteers, they should also get in touch. They should just look at the volunteer centre page. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and contact us. So we work with both organizations and companies and the municipality here. So
excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mikael. It's been really good to speak to you today. So thank you very much for joining us. We really hope that people will be inspired to go and check out the website, find out what they could be doing, or even think about whether they need volunteers for their organisation as well.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Really nice talking to you. Thank you.
Lovely. All right then. Okay. Thank you, Mikael.
Thank
good
you.
Stuff.
This is my first time doing a podcast. So it was funny. Yeah, it's good.
Good stuff. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you. Take care.
Bye. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to Mikael. Please join us next time when we'll be finding out about the International School of Helsingborg. And thank you for listening. If you have any thoughts or questions from this episode, you can find us at www.hiconnections.eu. On social media, we're on Instagram at HIConnections, and on Facebook and LinkedIn, we're at Helsingborg International Connections. We'd love to hear what you think, so please get in touch. Thanks as always to the Vision Fund for their support in making this series possible.